Every jar of Dijon mustard carries the name of a French city. You assume French seeds, French regulation, French protection. It does not. 80% of those seeds come from Saskatchewan, Canada, and the word Dijon is not protected. Not by French law, not by EU law, not by anyone. Champagne, Cognac, Roquefort, all protected. Dijon is not. Any company, any country can print Dijon mustard on any jar. But here is something that might surprise you. The ingredient that makes Dijon taste like Dijon is not the seed. It is the acid. This is how one ingredient swap in 1856 created a condiment the world calls French, using seeds that are almost entirely Canadian. Mustard seed is one of the oldest spices on Earth. It was found in the tomb of Tutankhamun. Romans ground the seeds with unfermented grape juice. They called it mustum ardens, burning must. That is where the English word mustard comes from. By the 14th century, Dijon owned the condiment. 70 gallons of mustard were served at a single feast for Philip VI in 1336. By the 17th century, the city had exclusive mustard-making rights, a formal guild system, and a reputation no other region could touch. Dijon was the mustard capital of Europe. Then something else happened. In 1856, a Dijon mustard maker named Jean Dijon did something no one had tried. He replaced the vinegar in his recipe with verjuice, tart, sharp acid pressed from unripe grapes. The result was not just different, it was cleaner, sharper, less harsh. The burn did not hit the same way. It arrived, then released. One substitution, acid for acid, and the flavor profile the world now calls Dijon existed for the first time. But Dijon had a problem. His mustard was better. His supply was not. Unripe grapes were seasonal, expensive, and unpredictable. Burgundy could not harvest enough to keep up with demand. The recipe worked. The supply chain did not. Here is the thing nobody tells you. Dijon mustard does not start in France. It starts on the Canadian prairies. Saskatchewan grows roughly 80% of the brown and oriental mustard seeds that French producers import. The seeds are harvested in late summer, dried to below 10% moisture, cleaned, and sorted by size and density before they leave the country. At the mill, those seeds meet one of two fates. Most enter industrial steel rollers that crush them in minutes. But at Fallow, the last independent mustard house still operating in Burgundy, the seeds go through silex stone mills. Stone grinds slower, stone runs cooler. That matters because mustard heat comes from compounds called isothiocyanates, and those compounds are volatile. Too much friction, too much warmth, and the bite evaporates before the mustard ever reaches a jar. After grinding, the crushed seeds are mixed with acid. This is the step that defines the product. Traditional Dijon used verjuice, Dijon's original acid. Modern production uses white wine or white wine vinegar, blended to a target acidity. The rule has not changed since 1856. The acid must be grape-derived, never plain distilled vinegar. That single distinction is the line between Dijon mustard and everything else. The mixture rests. Enzymes in the crushed seed react with the grape acid, and that reaction builds the characteristic sharp, clean bite, the flavor that sits on the tongue and then lifts instead of lingering. Next comes tamassage, fine filtration. French regulations require that finished Dijon contain no more than 2% residual seed husk by weight. This is what gives Dijon its smooth, creamy texture. Skip this step, and you get whole grain mustard, a different product entirely. The pH is adjusted to between 3.5 and 3.8. Acidic enough for food safety, mild enough to preserve the clean heat. Salt is added at 5 to 6% by weight. Some producers add citric acid for batch-to-batch consistency. No sugar, no fruit pectin, no emulsifiers. Jars are filled at controlled temperatures. Too warm, and the volatile compounds degrade before the lid goes on. The label can say Dijon mustard, regardless of where the seeds were grown, where the jar was filled, or who made it. Because in 1937, a French court ruled that Dijon describes a recipe style, not a place of origin. That is it. seeds from Canada, acid from grapes, stone or steel. Grinding, filtration to 2% husk, pH between 3.5 and 3.8, and a name that belongs to nobody. Take the jar of Grey Poupon sitting in your refrigerator. If you bought it in the United States, flip it over. The ingredient list includes distilled vinegar, sugar, and fruit pectin. 3 ingredients the original French Grey Poupon recipe never had. It is made in Holland, Michigan, not Dijon, not France. You remember the 1981 Rolls-Royce commercial? Pardon me, would you have any Grey Poupon? That ad pushed sales up 50%. The jar you buy at Walmart today is a different product wearing the same name. Now compare that to Moutarde de Bourgogne, Burgundy mustard. It carries an IGP label, granted in 2009. It requires seeds grown in Burgundy, AOC white wine from the region, and production in 4 specific departments. This is what most people imagine Dijon mustard to be. Dijon mustard, legally, is not required to be any of those things. Here is where the story flips. The real threat to Dijon mustard is not the unprotected name. It is what is happening right now in the Canadian fields that supply the seeds. BASF has developed InVigor Gold, a GMO hybrid between canola and Brassica juncea, the brown mustard plant. If approved for commercial planting, cross-pollination could contaminate the GMO-free certification that French producers require by law. France does not accept GMO. Canada exports more than $150 million in mustard seed to Europe every year. One regulatory approval, and the supply chain collapses. Not because the mustard changes, because the field next door does. Mustard farmers say it will destroy the industry. BASF says the two can coexist. France says it will not accept the seeds. Next time you pick up a jar of Dijon mustard, try this. Read the ingredient label. If distilled vinegar is the primary acid, you are holding a mustard made with the one ingredient Jean Najon removed in 1856. If you see sugar or fruit pectin, you are looking at something the original recipe never contained. Then check the origin. Product of France means the seeds almost certainly came from Canada. Product of the United States means neither the seeds nor the recipe may connect to Dijon at all. The reason nobody knows this is naming psychology. Dijon sounds French, sounds specific, sounds regulated. Because it sounds regulated, nobody checks. The same instinct that makes you trust champagne on a wine label makes you trust Dijon on a mustard jar. One earned protection through international treaties. The other lost it in 1937, when a judge decided it belonged to everyone. Whether that was generosity or surrender depends on which side of the Atlantic you stand. Branding plus one historical accident, the insight worth repeating at dinner. One ingredient swap in 1856 turned ordinary mustard into a global icon. And that icon depends on seeds from a country 6,000 kilometers away. That is the process. We reveal how things actually work, one story at a time. If there is something you would like us to explore next, let us know. Until then, trust the process.